My name is Oliver Queen. For 5 years, I was stranded on an island with only one goal. Survive.
Oliver Queen is alive.
Now I will fulfill my father's dying wish to use the list of names he left me and bring down those who are poisoning my city. To do this, I must become someone else. I must become something else.
Hello and welcome to the Arrowfans UK episode review podcast. This podcast will be focusing on episode 6, Keep Your Enemies Closer. I'm Bradley and I'm here today with Corey. Hello, Corey. Okay, so we're going to talk in detail about Keep Your Enemies Closer. Obviously, if you haven't watched the episode, you might want to go away now because you will get spoiled. And as every TV fan knows, that's the worst thing in the world. So, Corey, what did you think of the episode?
Well, I thought in terms of season 2, it's kept up the pacing of each episode. The story's been good and engaging. It continued the sort of character-based episode. Obviously, Diggle, it was his story for most of it. Yeah, I thought it was another good episode in what's been a very good season so far.
I like that they had a Diggle-centric episode, because up to now we've had bits kind of popping up, mainly about Deadshot, clearly, but it hasn't really kind of focused. I think the closest we got to that was probably not The Undertaking, I'm not even thinking, Home Invasion, episode 20, where he had that kind of, we got the opportunity to take down Deadshot, and that was kind of the sub-story. It wasn't obviously you've got Oliver taking out Mr. Blank is the main story, but they had the two stories, but it wasn't focused on him. And obviously, since we've had the Lance one back in episode 3, and obviously the last couple of episodes have been focused around Sarah, and I assume we're going to have a Moira one next week.
Yeah.
It was nice to have a little bit more about Diggle. Don't you think?
Yeah, because I think something I've said in reviews the last few weeks was Team Arrow have kind of just been in the background and just assisting Ollie, so it was nice to obviously have more focus on Diggle. And I'd say also we got a bit more about Felicity, but obviously we'll talk about that later. But no, it was nice to see him come to the front a little more this week.
Yeah, I agree with your assumption that they've been sitting back a little bit lately, because definitely the last two episodes there's been very little Felicity, and you can tell when there is no Felicity.
Yeah, that's very true.
Because it's not as funny.
No.
There are a lot less one-liners, and it's much more serious. But yeah, it's nice to learn a little bit more about Diggle, because I say we don't know that much about him, but we do, but we don't at the same time. We sort of we scratched the surface of the fact that when we met him, we know that he was in the army. His brother got killed. We learned that eventually after Oliver took down Deadshot. But obviously we've learned all these things in this episode. For example, Diggle being married to Lila, which we didn't previously know.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, really.
I'd say perhaps what we've seen from Diggle so far was more of his sort of professional background. We know he was ex-military, then moved into being a bodyguard and that, but sort of his personal life, apart from his brother, we didn't really know heaps about that. He sort of kept that to himself in some respects, I think. Sort of he's been there for Ollie and all that. Yes, so I can see what you mean. We kind of know stuff about him and we kind of don't, but I think perhaps after this week we know, we definitely know more.
I think the worst bit about it is the fact that up until now Diggle's been very secretive, and then criticised Oliver when he's secretive.
Yeah.
There's irony for you. But obviously, his relationship with other characters in this episode, particularly and very strangely Deadshot, obviously progressed. Obviously had a bit of Diggle and Lila towards the end together, so maybe they'll get back together.
Yeah.
Obviously had him and Deadshot working together, which I did not expect. I must say, even after seeing the promotional photos of them standing in the same room together, Deadshot having a gun and not shooting Diggle, which I thought was amazing. Although my theory to that was the same as last time, which was that no one was paying him to kill him, so.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it'd be interesting to see when we see Deadshot again.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know if Dig might find out why there was a hit ordered on his brother now. Maybe, I don't know, it's still his brother, but maybe his opinion on it will change. But I don't know, it's interesting because didn't kill him when he could have quite easily killed him. And I don't know if it's going to go in a new direction now, because obviously you say that's always been there scratching at the surface for Dig, and it's sort of, I don't know if you can really say he got closure to it this week, but it kind of developed from what it was. He knows a little bit more about why Deadshot did it, had a perfect chance to kill him, he didn't. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they pick that up, because I'm sure they will. So.
I mean, obviously, those who have fans of the comic books and maybe just looked it up, having not known anything about it, us. Deadshot obviously was part of the Suicide Squad, and so was Amanda Waller, who we saw in this episode. I'll come to in a minute. And you had Bronze Tiger and Count Vertigo, who have also been part of the Suicide Squad. So maybe they're opening up a channel for them to appear.
Yeah, that's a very valid point to make. I mean, we'll see how it goes, but they seem to like to raise the stakes in finales, and if you look at like the previous sort of mid-season and actual season finales, we've had pretty formidable opponents. Dark Archer, then there's Deadshot, China White, and that, and then obviously Malcolm and his plan and Dark Archer again. And yeah, so they tend to like to really give Ollie a test, and you'd think Suicide Squad could very well be that test. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're going to bring it in Christmas.
No.
I'll tell you that much, because obviously you got the Flash coming in episode 8 and 9. I think, as far as I know, that's going to be the last 2 episodes before Christmas.
Yeah.
So obviously they're going to leave it somehow with the Flash. But yeah, they are going to. I think they'll bring Suicide Squad in at some point. And I was just reading earlier, and Andrew Kreisberg and Martin Guggenheim have said that the Suicide Squad hinted that the Suicide Squad will appear in season 2. Now I'm not sure whether that is elements of the Suicide Squad, for example, Amanda Waller, Bronze Tiger, Deadshot and Vertigo, the Count returning, maybe a couple of other characters coming into it, or whether it's actually at some point they're going to all team up and they're going to be all together.
Yeah.
That'd be quite a bad time for Oliver, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it probably would.
You know, it's not like he fended off a group of train killers last week or anything.
No.
But yeah, it'd be interesting to see where they go with it. They do like their DC comic characters. Obviously, it's based off the comics. And they have been dropping a lot of new or old references towards comic characters. So I don't know.
Just found something on the internet actually, and it's more a blog entry by someone. I'm guessing they're an Arrow fan. And they say in here, Brother Blood will also be making an appearance, which will probably consist of getting his ass kicked by the Suicide Squad. And obviously, we know who Brother Blood is, and if they perhaps do that, that could... Well, I mean, I've only just seen it, so I don't know, but... Kinda, one thing I'm wondering now is, they seem to be, like, wanting to make this season bigger, and if you have Brother Blood, Suicide Squad sort of facing off against each other, Ollie in the middle of that, arguably it raises the stakes further than season 1, so you never know.
A trained killer trying to destroy the city, or a double figures amount of trained killers trying to kill each other in the glades where there are people who are probably going to get killed. I'm not sure which is worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, that's actually a really good point about Brother Blood. I don't know how he's going to come into it.
Yeah, I read up on there about him having a loyal group of followers. I don't know. I'm guessing that's gonna come to a head more as the season goes on. But yeah, we seem to do a good job of going off on a tangent on these things.
Yeah, what are we talking about?
Yeah, I think we were talking about Diggle and Deadshot, and somehow we've got to talking about Brother Blood v Suicide Squad. So. Talent.
Well, if everyone is in the writer's room, we can come up with 10 different storylines in 15 minutes.
That's very true.
So, Arrow writers, if you're listening, we're here to be hired. Kind of staying with the DC Comics characters, because I think we've kind of exhausted as much as Diggle as we can think of at the moment. Might come back to it eventually. But once again, the particle accelerator thing was mentioned.
Yeah.
On the news feed in the Arrow Cave before Diggle went to Russia. And apparently, people are protesting it because apparently it could be dangerous.
Yeah. I mean, we've sort of seen it pop up here and there last few episodes, but we got more of a chunk of information this time. Obviously, danger and that. And from what I think we've both seen trawling around the various different sites, a lot of people are suspecting that this could be the origin for the Flash, and if he's coming up, and it could be dangerous. And obviously we think episode 8 and 9 of last year, we may have a little clue there of what's going to happen before Christmas.
I mean, obviously, the Flash is connected to this particle accelerator, but I don't know too much about it. So, I don't know. Obviously, they're going to find some way of introducing it, but maybe they don't actually introduce the particle accelerator until further on in the season.
I think I read somewhere that the whole Flash powers, I don't think they come until episode 20, but I'm not sure on that.
That's a spin-off episode.
Yeah.
Planted spin-off. I'll give that 3 episodes before it gets cancelled by the CW. Yeah, but I don't know. I'm not really quite sure what the particle accelerator does, to be quite honest.
I'm not
I would assume it speeds up the particles. Just going off on the name there, but that's probably quite a basic understanding. But yeah, it might be a little bit like the Dark Archer and the Earthquake device last year, where we sort of have these hints from the very start of the season about this big piece of technology that's going to kill a lot of people. Whereas last year, obviously, we didn't know till the very end. They could be used in that kind of way, perhaps.
They tend, I think, a lot of shows tend to do that with when they're moving towards their finale. They like putting little clues in there. I think with Doctor Who, they always used to have a certain word in there which was hinting towards the finale. So, and obviously we're seeing Particle Accelerator come up a few times now, so there's some fairly good bet there.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think if there were any sort of small hints in the first season. But I don't think I was paying that close attention to start with, to be honest. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. There's obviously a reason that they're dropping all these hints. They wouldn't drop Particle Accelerator every other episode for no reason.
No.
There's a reason behind it, like everything they do with Laurel, destroying her, making her into nothing. Everything has a purpose.
Yeah.
We're just yet to see it.
yeah, it's like I think we were talking about last week, the whole last season where Laurel, her mum and her dad thought Sarah might still be alive. Turned out they found nothing, but then obviously she popped up, and that whole storyline made a little more sense then. So.
Speaking of Sarah, I think we should sort of talk about these flashbacks, because obviously she's left Starling City now that Lance knows.
Yeah.
And I think we'll see her for a little while. Of course, on this show, little while probably means next week. Yeah. But obviously she's still around the island. Continuation of, well, episode 4 actually, of the final flashback then.
Yeah.
They kind of looped into last week. But kind of the fact that Ivo is now, no really, that he's using Oliver now, isn't he?
Yeah.
Because he managed to get Sarah to trick Oliver into trying to make contact with Slade and Shadow, who are alive, by the way. And I must say, just to go off on a little bit of a tangent here, I got spoiled about the fact that Slade was going to be in this episode. Stupid man that I am, I looked on my Twitter feed before I watched the episode. And of course, I follow a lot of Arrow people. And the first tweet that I saw was about, oh, well, I assume that'll be the reason why Slade wears that mask then. And I just put my head in my hand, I thought, why? Just, why? Why would I do that? Just a note to anyone listening. If you're a fan of a show, and you haven't watched that show, and you have Twitter, and you follow a lot of people related to that on Twitter, do not read Twitter. It is a fatal mistake. It's twice that's happened to me now. The first time was with Tommy finding out about Oliver. So annoying. Anyway, back to, Arrow. Going to Slade and Shadow, they're still alive. Obviously, we've kind of known about this from the hints dropped in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
By Sarah. And Slade is in very bad shape.
Yeah, he's not looking his best. That's probably being kind.
Yeah, I mean, that first angle where he's kind of on his left-hand side of his face, we thought, oh, he's fine. Go to his right-hand side of his face. Oh, he ain't fine. But that one scene with the two of them actually kind of paved the way for a potential love triangle. I mean, we've obviously, since Shadow got introduced to Oliver and Slade back in episode 18, we've always known that there's a potential of it.
Yeah.
But this is the first time we've seen anything about it grow. Previously, it's just been Oliver and Shadow kind of sharing those flirtatious looks, and obviously at the start of the season they had a bit of a thing going on.
Yeah.
But I think it could be, I don't know where they can go with the kind of love triangle, if they kind of bring it into the fact that Slade is going to become Deadshot and he's going to become a bad guy. And this is one of the reasons behind him going against Oliver. Obviously factoring into that the fact that Oliver decided that he would run and try and save Shadow, and that was the fault, that was why Slade got burned.
Yeah.
But they're obviously trying to set Slade up for something.
Yeah. I mean, I think in some respects, if his villainous turn was based on a love triangle, that would probably be well, it depends how well they do it, but sort of it may come across a bit sort of, cliche, I guess, but it does seem like they're going that way. I mean, the way they were talking to each other in that scene, and obviously Oliver's not there right now, you could definitely see something happening there, and I guess it just depends what happens next. And I suppose when you bear in mind Sarah, we know, comes across them, obviously Oliver and Sarah know each other, then maybe that could drive a bit of a wedge between him and Shadow anyway, so...
Does that mean we're going to have a love rectangle?
Well, that'd be a first.
No. You obviously haven't been catching up on Tomorrow people. I won't spoil it for UK people. Coming in January, by the way, on E4. Very much watch. But yeah, the whole thing about the love triangle turning people against Oliver was kind of what they had the potential to do with Tommy in the finale. Was the fact that if he kind of took over from his dad, that if he did go against Oliver, it would be kind of, well, not kind of based on it, but related to the fact that they've got the love triangle going on between Oliver, Tommy, and Laurel. And the fact that after having persuaded Tommy to go and talk to her about it, Oliver then goes to Laurel and, you know. So, yeah, I'm not a particular fan of that kind of route. I don't mind the love triangle kind of appearing and being part of the thriller, but it's not that much of a reason to hold like a grudge or go against people like that.
I just had a thought on that actually, which might actually lead us nicely onwards as well. I think I'm going to have a go at this and probably fail, but Anatoly Knyazev.
Yeah, not bad.
That's going to be murder. By the end of this podcast, my tongue is going to hurt from saying that. Anyway, we know that Oliver saves his life, and we know he's in the flashbacks as well, and we also know that Slade doesn't take too kindly to betrayal, so perhaps that could be one of the other factors in breaking him and Ollie up, and make them sound like a couple as well now.
Well, first of all, I just want to congratulate you on the Knyazev pronunciation. What do you mean, like, betrayal?
I think it was in was it the Oddity Island-based episode in season 1? I think him and Ollie, I can't remember if they were under... No, I'm thinking of Django Unchained now. They all blur in my mind as one. No, but obviously, I think the initial Deathstroke was Bill Wintergreen, who was Slade's partner, and I think I can't quite remember what it was, but I think what happened was Wintergreen ended up doing something for money or whatever and betraying Slade, and obviously he didn't really take too kindly to that, and those two were kind of forced against each other. So I don't know if Ollie does something to save, I'm just going to call him Anatoly instead, if he does something to save him instead of Slade, or stops him getting off the island again to save them, I don't know, but perhaps him helping Knyazev instead of Slade or whatever leads to them not being on best terms. I don't know. I mean, this, you never know with this shit. It'll throw you in all sorts of directions. I mean,
I think that's actually quite a fair theory, because obviously we've had Slade Oliver stopped Slade from leaving the island once already.
Yeah.
To save the Alpha, which actually didn't go all that well, did it?
No.
But the fact was that he could take that first betrayal because actually Yao Fei was his friend too.
Yeah.
And actually Oliver became more of a fighter after it, and Slade realised that actually Oliver could become something and help him get off the island. And I think also he needed that kind of boost of caring about people.
Yeah.
Because up until this point, he's actually, previously, obviously, he's got Wintergreen as his daughter's godson, if I remember correctly. So obviously he's got friends and whatever. And since Wintergreen betrayed him, he basically just has a grudge against everyone.
Yeah.
Which is fair enough.
Yeah.
So I think he needed that Oliver influence to make him a better person.
Yeah.
If he brings someone who Slade does not know, onto the island, and then Oliver saves him instead of Slade, or, as you say, hijacks his chance to escape from the island, or whatever. I don't know. Then he's not going to take too kindly to that. No. Especially it being Oliver's fault that he's got these injuries in the first place.
I know what you mean.
So, I'm still really hoping that we see Slade in the present day.
Yeah, I mean, I think we would. I would have thought we will in the end, because it does sound like he's still alive, as I think we talked about that last time. But I mean, fingers crossed we do. I mean, it'd be interesting to see his island pass sort of catch up with him, because that hasn't really happened yet.
Except for, Kinya Dev and Sarah.
Apart from that.
Yeah. I don't know. The thing about Slade is that I think if he does come into the present day, he's not going to be a good guy.
No.
He's going to be a bad guy. It's quite simple, really. Anyway, I think talk about Isabel Rochev now.
Yep.
I know we kind of got very little structure to the way we're going about this, but obviously noted that Summer Glau has decided that she's going to gain another facial expression, which is always nice for an actress. Almost an actor then. Wouldn't have been good. That would not have been good. And she managed to seduce Oliver, which actually, considering the Playboy reputation he's had previously, probably isn't that hard to do.
No.
Felicity seems quite awkward with it. Just kind of looping her into this. What did you think of the way that they went about it this episode?
Well, I think for starters, they made Rochev a bit of a, I don't know if better character is the right word, but I mean, they added a bit more depth to her. We got a bit more of her backstory. It wasn't just her basically standing behind Oliver and making certain jibes at everything he says.
It was at the start, I have to say it, and in the bar, it was then. But yeah, carry on.
I thought sort of, I don't know, something about how they hooked up didn't sort of quite feel right to me. I mean, I know they had a bit of vodka in them, so that was probably a factor. But sort of, I was comparing it to last week with Oliver and Laurel. I mean, she went in to kiss him, he didn't do anything, Mr. Responsible. But this week, obviously, I mean, I know he doesn't know Rochev as well, but you'd have to say sort of, I'd say there are perhaps similarities about the situation. I mean, I wouldn't really say she's vulnerable, but obviously she's not. Well, obviously she's kind of throwing herself at Oliver, and he goes along with it quite willingly. I don't know, just something about it didn't quite feel right to me. I guess, like, for this, he says it probably just didn't feel like it made sense, but like you say about his Playboy past, I mean, you can't, I'm sure he's still got that side of him in there anyway, and, well, yeah. I don't really know.
Well, I mean, obviously I'm kind of going to go on to a bit of how it didn't really feel right, especially the fact that even though this is TV, that was possibly the shortest amount of time that any person has been with a woman ever. It was literally like, go out to the hotel room, 30 seconds later, we're done. I don't really want to go any further than that. But
well, and if he's had a Playboy past, I'm guessing he's a little better at it than that. I'll shut up now, I won't say any more.
Yeah, this is bad territory.
Yes.
Stop. But yeah, as Felicity said, it wasn't really. It seemed weird.
Yeah.
And obviously we'd seen the promos and sort of, is that Rochev in the bed? Is it really? So obviously we kind of had the suspicion that it would happen. But the way it led up to it was weird. I mean, the fact was that he arrived in the bar, and she's annoyed at him for missing the tour or whatever it was that they were doing. And they're having drinks together and having fun. Then she's throwing insults at him. Then they're together.
Yeah.
It's just weird.
I think it felt more, to me it kind of seemed more of a plot, just a plot device really to just throw a little bit of tension between Oliver and Felicity there. That's all I can think they were doing it for, really. But you never know. Sometimes this show does things and then they kind of make sense in a few episodes' time. So.
And either to kind of draw tension between Oliver and Felicity or just to shut Rochev up.
Yeah, just give her something else to do. I think.
It's like, yeah, you've come along on this trip, uninvited. This is a private mission. You don't need to know about it. You think we're going here for business? We're actually not, although it's business. So before you find out what we're doing here, what we're really doing here, let's find something to shut you up. It's definitely a plausible theory.
Yeah, I'd agree with you.
Yeah, going down the Felicity route, she really was not happy, was she?
I thought that was interesting, because I wouldn't say we'd really seen that much of an unhappy Felicity. I mean, usually she's happy anytime she opens her mouth, it's pure gold. But obviously we saw, I mean, you could see she was hurt, and you could see she was confused and that, and it brought some more depth to her, and yeah, we definitely hadn't seen that sort of behaviour from her before. So.
No, I mean, the thing I found interesting about that, especially the scene up in the office towards the end, was that Oliver seemed to not admit but hint at possibly feeling something for Felicity.
Yeah,
you kind of think, I don't know. I mean, obviously, like, they work together and they're friends and whatever. And obviously Felicity's kind of unknowingly and, well, not unknowingly, without thinking, kind of made these points about Oliver and the fact that she could potentially be attracted to him, but kind of has done nothing about it. And wouldn't want to do anything about it either. I don't know.
I'd say, obviously I think we also had Rochev herself saying about, I think...
Felicity, yeah. Oh, that was fun. That was funny.
Thing. So, I don't know, I mean, we were talking earlier about the particle accelerator being dropped here and there. Who knows if maybe they're doing the same thing with Oliver and Felicity.
Felicity shippers, if you're listening, be happy. Have a party. You know, rejoice in the fact that there might be something. Yeah. I was going to say something and now I've completely forgotten what it was. This is going well. Yeah.
Was it just about Rochev talking to Ollie about him and Felicity in the airport?
Oh yeah. She does seem to think that there is something going on between them, which actually, considering what Oliver's done, there is little way to explain it other than that, and obviously the truth, which there is no way ever he's going to admit, clearly. Yeah, it could be interesting, because obviously now Felicity isn't going to like Rochev. So there could be a bit of a, can't think of the right word, conflict between them two, from now on. I don't know. Maybe, Felicity will find someone else.
Yeah, I mean, I think I saw somewhere that, episode 8 and 9, where Barry Allen's in town, that, she gets on quite well with him, so I guess we'll have to wait and see on that account.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe we should, like, kind of Google what is the largest shape ever, and then kind of get an image of it, and then just put all the characters' names around it. It's like a love, I don't know, is it a dodecahedron? Or is that the 3D shape? I don't know.
No, I think
we're getting into shapes here. This is a worrying thing.
I know. I'm amazed at the amount of tangents we've drifted off at. I mean, we deserve some credit for that.
Yeah, it's sort of eyeing up so that everyone could be potentially involved with everyone. I mean, I think the Arrow writers tweeted back before the season started about Oliver potentially having sex with someone in 203, and then the hashtag was not Diggle. So I just kind of took that was it not Diggle that's not having sex, or is it that he's not going to be with Diggle? Just kind of couldn't figure that one out. But yeah, I think we should go on and talk a little bit about Thea.
Yeah.
And Roy. Obviously, there was a big turning point in this episode. The fact that the lawyer, Jean Loring, I think it was.
Yeah.
I may be confusing her with her actress name, but either way. Tried to convince Thea to break up with Roy because apparently it was hurting her mother's case, which I think is total rubbish. And actually, in the end, Moira convinced Thea to stay with Roy.
Yeah.
Which I think is a fair thing to do. And obviously, for story-wise, keeping him in it that way is the best way, because otherwise he's just involved with the bro.
Yeah.
Sort of a boring storyline that way. At least with, like, being involved with Thea, it's like Oliver having to lead a double life.
Yeah.
So I don't know, really. But I liked, obviously this was the first time that Moira met Roy.
Yeah.
And actually you think that she might not approve of someone like that. Someone who does have a bad past, and so it was interesting that she approved of him.
Yeah,
but,
I know what you mean. Sort of, I mean, obviously, season 1, Thea was getting into trouble in that, and Moira was pretty disapproving of that. But she seemed pretty happy. Well, I suppose Roy has been pretty good for Thea, even if she's probably got her own parking slot at the police station.
Yeah, I mean, it's what was she saying to Lance about this? I don't know, something about it being not that long ago that this was happened last time, or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but yeah, obviously he's not got very good past and is a criminal, to be quite frank with it. But I think it needs to be, obviously he's now got a better working relationship with the Arrow, even if he's just kind of telling him to go home once he's got information.
Yeah.
So, maybe, I mean, I'm going to go into a little bit something else in it, but maybe Roy's going to end up finding out Oliver's identity pretty soon, and he joining up completely. So, like, when Diggle joined up, Oliver started training him, and then when Felicity joined up, Diggle started training her a little bit. So, perhaps Roy's going to join up with them and start training.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of see if Roy did find out Ollie's secret identity, I can kind of see him sort of blackmailing Ollie into training him that way. Yes, I'd agree with that.
I just sort of want to go into that, though. I wouldn't... As much as it would be nice for Roy to finally be involved more than the occasional kind of info man and sister's boyfriend, I could do without one more person finding out Oliver's identity for a while.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Because I think what we've had, so we've had this season, I'm just trying to think. Last week we had Sarah, a couple weeks ago we obviously had Sarah knows about it, and has done for a year. This week we found out that Amanda Waller knows what Oliver and Diggle do.
Yeah.
I would presume that Deadshot knows Oliver's identity now.
Yeah, yeah.
Even if we didn't actually kind of acknowledge it at all. Who else has Stevens found out about it?
I'm sure someone else did.
Yeah. I was trying to think. Might have to look that up now while I'm talking. Yeah. And then obviously you got it on top of last season, where you had loads of people finding out about it.
One every week seemed to find out. Well,
Yeah.
not quite every week, but...
Not quite every week, but, you know what I mean.
I think I think I heard somewhere they're aiming for at least 5 seasons based on the flashbacks in 5 years, so... I don't know, if you carry on that rate, then you're going to have a fair few people knowing who he is by the end of it all.
Yeah, I mean, obviously if Slade's still alive, then he's going to know about it.
Mm.
If Shadow's still alive, she's going to know about it.
Yeah.
Don't know who else really. Ivo, maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's definitely getting a little bit out of hand. I mean, what have we had? 29 episodes? And 9 people know about it.
Yeah.
That's basically one every 3 episodes, or near enough.
Yeah, so that's... Yeah, that's sort of... I don't know, it get to the point... I mean, if someone's going to find out for a purpose, you know, then...
It's going to be Roy.
Yeah.
And that I can appreciate. I don't mind that, because obviously they're going to bring that in, but it is to an extreme of bringing people in on the secret. But I don't know, really. I think we've kind of exhausted all the character talk. Just looking. Yeah, I think we've pretty much gone as far as we can go with that. Those sort of kind of other little bits that I noticed. First of all, I am a really big fan of soundtracks, the actual television scores.
Yeah.
I've actually got the Arrow soundtrack on my phone, which is very sad. But the music, the end when they were getting off the plane.
Yeah.
I've heard that somewhere before on the show, and I can't figure out where. And it's not in the soundtrack, and I know because I memorised most of the soundtrack, which is even more sad. I'm just going to stop talking about that. But yeah, that's one really good thing about the show. Blake Neely, I've never actually heard of him before the show. He has done some fantastic work, hasn't he?
Yeah, I agree with you totally there.
I mean, I don't know if you got I think it was digital download over here, but I don't know if you got the Arrow soundtrack.
No, I haven't got around to that yet.
Might send it over to you. Some of the stuff on there is fantastic. I think it was the setting up the lair one from episode 1, from where Oliver jumped the fence and then is setting up the lair.
Yeah, I've got you. Yeah, I can remember that.
Hence the title. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
And there are quite a few more as well, but I'm not going into more detail. So yeah, just, long live the music. One thing I do want to go into, I know did we touch on this earlier? I don't think we did. About the comics, is that we learned that, as we'd actually previously assumed, that Diggle presumably hadn't. Deadshot was contracted to kill Andy.
Yeah. I don't know what happened there.
And apparently a group called Hive contracted him. Now, I've looked this up because originally I thought that he said Ive, so I thought Dr. Anthony Ivo is going to be in the present day. Ooh, interesting. But I've looked it up, and it's the supervillain organisation in the DC Comics. 2 of its members, Deathstroke, which is Slade Wilson, who actually had a son who actually joined, and also Talia al Ghul, as I mentioned last week.
Another reason for the Batman fans among us to go a little crazy.
Yeah. Obviously Diggle tried to search it up and whatever, so I don't think we saw the result of the Google search.
No.
But it's interesting to see what he finds on that.
Yeah, I'm guessing. Well, I think we were saying earlier about him and Deadshot and where that'd go. Maybe this is the next step, tracking down Hive.
Do you think they'll team up?
Yeah, you never know.
That would be a weird twist.
That would indeed.
I'm not particularly sure that he'd managed to survive the episode without getting an arrow in the chest.
No.
To be quite honest. But yeah, it could be interesting to see the backstory of that. I know touched about Felicity, but when Diggle suggested that Lila was his wife, and Felicity just goes, "Explain that sentence." I'm just sitting there thinking, well, Felicity, it's pretty obvious.
Yes.
I mean, obviously not like what happened with the marriage bit, how they got married, when they got married, what happened to it and whatever, but it's sort of the core focus of marriage. And she just sort of, it almost seems as if she didn't understand what he was saying. I just thought it was a bit weird. Just looking through some, oh yeah, another bit about Felicity, her excuses. I'm not quite sure what's worse. Her excuses in this episode, or, I need you to test this substance. My friend's making an energy drink company, and I want to know what's in it. I've got a hell of a hangover, or whatever. And, okay, one question. If this is an energy drink, why is it in a syringe? I ran out of sports bottles. I'm not sure what is worse, Oliver's excuses or Felicity's. Hopefully they improve, because I tell you something, Rochev is going to figure something out in a minute if she doesn't improve them.
Yeah, I mean she may not smile much, but I'm sure she's rather bright as well to be where she is.
Well, yeah, because she said about succeeding and whatever, so I assume she's quite intelligent. I'm just trying to think if there was anything else that I thought about. Oh yeah, I didn't actually mention this. I kind of didn't have it on my notes page here when I was talking about Slade. Ivo producing or not producing, but looking for the Japanese submarine that supposedly had a strength increasing serum or something in it from World War II, I believe. And I've seen a theory. I haven't really looked on the internet since I've watched it, but I saw a theory somewhere, I can't remember where, that it might end up being Ivo and Slade takes this to cure his pain from the burning, or try and heal it, or whatever. And then he sort of joins Ivo on the bad side of things, and that's how he becomes Deathstroke.
That's a very good point to make, actually. I'm just seeing... Yep, and I've just looked at Deathstroke on here, and apparently Deathstroke possesses various enhanced abilities stated to be almost superhuman, so... I think you might be onto something there.
What was it? The producers said about how he Oliver. I don't know whether this was true or not, or whether it was a sort of myth. I don't know. I saw it on one site and then didn't see it again, so I don't know whether it was true or not. But apparently Oliver's going to get powers in this season.
Oh, is he? I'll have a little Google and see if I can find that while we're talking.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not really too sure how I feel about that, because obviously the whole basis of this show is that it's different.
Yeah.
That they haven't had powers, for example, like Sarah, with her sonic device thingy as Oliver quite brilliantly told Felicity, instead of the actual ability to make that sound herself.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe they're over making it into a comic. Weird, I must say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just looking at I can call him Deadshot then. I'm not even with it at all now. I've just gone. Deathstroke had a regenerative healing factor. So actually, it's highly likely that if he could actually get this serum, and he might find it by himself.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a fair point to make.
Because obviously, if Ivor is sending Oliver back to the island, it's likely that Oliver's going to tell Slate about it, and Shadow, and they obviously won't want Ivor to get a hold of this, because he would end up, well, probably destroying the world. Which, for obvious reasons, wouldn't be very good. So, maybe they find it, and actually Slate decides to take it, and it ends up controlling him, or something like that.
Yeah, I mean,
Just, yeah. No more opinion necessary, just yeah. But yeah, obviously, it's impossible to predict what they're going to do on this show. It's just not even possible, is it?
Yeah, I guess that's a sign of a good show. I mean, we could sit here and talk all night and probably not really get anywhere definitive with it.
No, we'll end up on a tangent of talking about how this is totally connected to something that could happen in 2017.
Yeah.
Or, we seem to like doing that. But, yeah, I mean, I think I've exhausted everything I can think of. I think you had a theory about Amanda Waller, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, when she first came in, she, I mean, if anyone can remember, I think it was Darkness on the Edge of Town.
Yep.
We saw on the island, Fire's contact we just saw a pair of legs and red shoes, I think. And
yep.
From what I remember of when Amanda came in this one, she seemed to have very similar shoes. And I thought it was interesting that they focused on those. I mean, it might be nothing, but they seemed a little similar, so you never know.
Well, it's definitely an interesting theory. Yeah, I think obviously we'll explore that at some point.
Yeah.
I think someone that has the kind of I can't think of the right word. The effect that even the name Amanda Waller has of the fact that she was part of the Suicide Squad and she was in the comics and whatever.
Yeah.
Actually, just the idea of her being in it presents the thing that she's not just going to be in it as an Argus agent for 15 seconds at the start of an episode.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem right.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. Yeah, she's definitely going to have some sort of larger role. What that is yet, I'm not sure. But yeah, I mean, I think from looking at what I'm seeing here, she was slightly connected to Lex Luthor.
All right.
As well. So maybe we're going to end up with like a Superman, Batman, Smallville, whatever, every single comic book, film and TV show ever created, kind of just combining into an episode of Arrow.
Yeah.
That would be weird. I think my head would explode at that point with all the comic book stuff.
Blind,
I don't know any of it.
Trying to do a podcast on that, we'd be here forever.
We'd either be here forever or we'd last 2 minutes without kind of giving up.
Yeah.
Google isn't fast enough.
People would just hear the gentle sounds of our heads popping.
Yeah, there's too many comic book references. We didn't read the comic books. We don't know. It's not very good for an hour site, is it?
No, I suppose not.
Anyway, I think we've exhausted all these, and I'm certainly on the point of, collapsing in a heap. So I think we'll wrap it up there.
Do you want to just talk about the promo for next week, perhaps, and anything we noticed in that?
I just thought that I knew you were going to say it as well. I thought we kind of would get away from it, but, I have only watched it once and didn't really pick up on anything, so I'm kind of hoping you picked up on something.
The only thing I really, obviously the Count comes back, and it seems kind of crazy, so I'm guessing, I think we talked about that a bit, about how they'd bring him back into it. So I'm guessing Vertigo's probably driven him a little bit nuts, which hopefully will be quite interesting. And I also saw Brother Blood's mask in that.
I saw that as well.
Yeah, so those are the two things I picked up. And I'm guessing, I'm just reading about, I read a little bit earlier on what it's about. Obviously, the title of the episode is State v Queen, so Moira's, obviously, you'd guess, is fighting for her future. And obviously the Count's back as well, so I'm guessing it's going to be a case of where Ollie's got to juggle stuff. And
well, yeah, I mean, I've just put the press release up. I know the site isn't working all that well at the moment, which I'm trying to fix, by the way. Although that'll be fixed by the time this goes out, won't it?
Yeah, hopefully
Never mind.
It's going to be a long week.
Never mind. Anyway, the press release reads, Moira fights for her life, the Count returns. Oliver is concerned when a mysterious illness sweeps the city, infecting hundreds of people, including Diggle. That does not sound good. Oliver discovers vertigo in Diggle's blood and realizes the Count has broken out of prison, and I think, actually no, I'll finish that sentence, and is once again distributing his drug. I think in the promo, we saw him climbing out of a triangle kind of. Actually, thinking about it, it looked like a little bit of a flash thing, didn't it?
Yeah.
In the wall. I'm probably reading too much into that, but I think that may have been caused by the earthquake.
Yeah, I'm just gonna get it up on here and sort of watch it on mute and see if I can pick anything out of it.
Okay, well I'll continue to read then.
Yep.
Meanwhile, Moira goes on trial for her participation in the undertaking. ADA Donna collapses in court with vertigo symptoms, so Laurel must step in and try the case against Moira. Oliver is torn between standing by his family during the trial and catching the Count. However, things change with Felicity, follows the lead, and walks straight into a trap set by none other than the Count. So, obviously, as you said, he's going to have a struggle balancing, do I help Moira, do I kind of being caught, supporting Moira, his mum, or take down a drug dealer who will probably end up killing a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it seems weird to me that someone like Oliver, who now, at least, if not before the island, but now, has this appreciation for caring for people, wanting to help people, it amazes me that actually he'd ever consider kind of being around his mum, kind of supporting her over saving the city.
Yeah.
It seems, especially after she lied to him quite a bit.
Yeah. I totally know what you're saying, yeah.
And then, obviously, you've got the fact that Felicity's now in danger, so he's going to go save her. Is he just doing this kind of, usually to save the city, but if he's on it, well, if my friend's in danger, then I'll help you, but if they're not, then, you have to wait. I mean, what do you think of that?
No, yeah, to be honest, I agree with you. Sorry, I'm just watching the promo, actually, because I've realised something. Yeah. It looks like Brother Blood's going to be testing again, because I can see, I've just paused it now, it's about 16 seconds in. There's like a line of people and they have blood coming out of their eye, so it looks like he's going to be pretty active as well in this episode.
What a lovely thought for, the evening.
Yep, lovely.
Yeah, that was... See, I still think that was Vertigo that he injected that first time. Like an advanced version of Vertigo. Maybe...
Initially, actually, when he took his mask off, at first I actually thought it was going to be the Count anyway.
That would have been interesting. But yeah, I think... Especially if the Count's been out since the earthquake.
Yeah.
Which was, what are we now, November, 6 months ago. If he's been out that long, it's quite plausible that he's teamed up with Brother Blood.
Yeah.
And has obviously got like an advanced version of Vertigo that kills much more rapidly and much more brutally.
Yeah, I mean... Yeah, I did... Yeah, I'm doing the airs again. No, I think that's a very good point, because, I mean... I'm trying to think back. I don't know if my mind's just inventing stuff, but didn't they talk about... I don't know if they talked about a prison break in one of these...
Yeah.
In the earthquake, I think...
Yeah, that's how... Massive.
Yeah, that's right.
Got out.
Yeah, so I'm guessing the earthquake's the best bet there, and I think that's a very good theory of Brother Blood, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea what would be in that syringe if it wasn't Vertigo or something similar to Vertigo. I don't know. Maybe it was an energy drink.
Yeah.
But we'll see next week.
Yeah.
And then I'm sure we can have another hour-long discussion on it.
Yeah.
But well, anyway, I think we'll wrap it up there. I hope you've all enjoyed this podcast, and we will see you next week.